ecosystem of people building on what the next generation vision of what a browser would be, should be, could be. How do we build a browser and a web that meets our needs as end users of the internet, instead of that people have been serving that data to us over HTTP only? And in the summit, about a week and a half ago, we had 13 different projects speak about their vision of a end user focused internet. And since then, we've been having deep dives into a couple of different projects. Today, I'm very happy to have Julien from Unlock come to show us about how Unlock works, what you can do with it, and what they're up to. We have known each other in different lives, different times for quite some time now. So not only do we get to have some of the professionals and visionaries in this area of work coming and sharing with us, but it's old friends. Yes. So thanks, Julien, for joining. Very happy to have you. I'm looking forward to seeing what you share with us today.
Thanks for having me, Dietrich. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone. I think you've seen me a couple days ago, last week, 10 days ago, tell you about Unlock. Maybe I'll start with a high-level introduction about Unlock, and then we'll dive into a demo of how you can do things. What Dietrich said about the fact that the internet is, we've been serving data to the people serving us content. I think it's because the core business model of the web is attention. It's about, giving away some data so that some websites, application, instead of paying for it, basically they're trying to attract our attention with, crashes on the side of the road, or, these massive slideshows that you have to click 1,000 times, or fake news and all of these things. And I think, again, this is all coming down to the fact that the way to make money online until now is mostly about showing ads and making sure that the eyeballs are stuck on the screen. As Dietrich said, I've been part of the open web for quite a long time now. And this has become a stronger and stronger conviction of mine that this was unhealthy and we need to change the way we make money. One thing that I've realized is that in practice, even though we used to say information wants to be free, it's not free as in beer, it's actually free as in jail. People are fine paying for content if it's served, if it's provided in a way that is valuable, if it is not too frictionful, and if it's easy. I mean, Steve Jobs actually proved it by saying the App Store, people will pay for music rather than actually use, downloaded free music. And he was right. There's a bunch of things that he was wrong about, but when you actually provide people with an easy way to unlock content, applications, features, memberships, they do so. They're not about not paying. They're about, finding ways to pay for the stuff that they care about in ways that are easy and supportive of their favorite creators. And so that's what Unlock is about. Unlock is a protocol for membership. It is a way for any creator online to easily deploy what we call a membership, a smart contract on the Ethereum chain that defines the terms of that membership. And we'll do that during the demo. So Unlock at the core level is this. We built on top of this what I call the convenience layer, which APIs, services even, to make it easy or easier for, if you think about email, obviously it's a set of open protocol like POP, SMTP, IMAP, to send emails for free without having to worry about censorship or any of these things. In practice, though, nobody sends email directly by using the terminal. I mean, some people do, but the terminal, we all use a convenience layer, whether it's called Gmail, whether it's called Hotmail, Microsoft Exchange, Fastmail, ProtonMail, all of these basically services that we pay for, either in the form of a membership, a subscription, like some of the one that I mentioned, or through ads like Gmail, for example. We pay for these services to provide us with the convenience of using the underlying core protocol. And at Unlock is the same. The core protocol is itself completely free and open and decentralized. We couldn't take a fee if we wanted to. But some of the convenience layer that we provide are things that we charge for because we think that it's actually the way to do that in a way that is fair and safe for the internet. Cool. And so basically, if you're building any kind of application or hosting content, or even having a community of people online that you want to identify as your members, you could use Unlock for this. And so let's do that together. So it's going to sound familiar to the demo that I did the other day, but I'm going to do a bit more than I did last time. So maybe starting with the website unlock-protocol.com, that's where you can find the way to get started. We have links here that I would send you to, including the docs that you definitely check out. The GitHub, where all of our code is available. It's obviously all open source, and you can play with that and look at this, open issues, and maybe pull requests if you're interested in fixing some things. But then more importantly for that session, we're going to use what we call the dashboard. It's actually one of our apps to create and manage locks. The locks are the smart contracts that represent the membership terms, if you want. So I'm gonna click here. It's actually going to open that same page that I have here, but I'll stick to that one. And so the first thing that I have to do here is connect to a wallet. As I said, Unlock is actually built on Ethereum, and it is not so much for. It's obviously very useful for the fact that since payment is baked into the protocol, some kind of mechanism for payment, but it's actually more about the decentralized permissionless infrastructure. So it's more about like, how can we find a way to run code in a way that is kind of permissionless and doesn't require for a server. So here I'm going to connect my browser wallet, and this is a requirement for the creator side. We'll see later in that exercise today that for members, subscribers, they don't require, or they don't need to have a crypto wallet, but for creators, they need to have a crypto wallet because they deploy the contract, and we really want that contract to belong to them, not to belong to us or anything like this. So I'm going to connect my crypto wallet. I'm using MetaMask, and it didn't pop me because I've connected before, but basically you see that here that I'm connected to the Rinkeby network, which is testnet, and Unlock is available on Rinkeby. It's also available on Ropsten when it comes to testnet. And when it comes to production network, it's available on mainnet, on XDAI, on Polygon, and soon a couple more that we'll announce. Here I've created I've transferred one fake ETH, which is going to be useful to pay for gas. You don't need that much, obviously, to deploy your membership. But if you do deploy a membership on mainnet, it's going to cost you, given gas prices at this point, a couple dollars to maybe a couple tens of dollars if gas prices are extremely expensive, like they were at some point last week. Cool. So on that page, basically, this is where you would manage all of your locks. So all the smart contracts that you might have. And I say all, in practice, as a creator, you might have one membership that you sell access to, or you can have maybe 3 or 4, depending on what kind of service you provide. So let's start with one. Again, you could have multiple. On that dashboard, you can see first the network that you're connected to, and you can switch networks here. You can disconnect, which will basically disconnect, and you can see the address that you're connected with. Let's get started by basically creating the first lock. So I'm going to press that button, and basically we see that little UI here. Again, this is convenience. You could literally deploy the smart contract from a command line without having to trust any of the Unlock Inc. Properties or our website, but we just think that it's convenient for people to do so. So let's create a lock here, and when you create a lock, you have to give it a name. So we'll be very creative here. We'll do brother 3000. Oops, I can't type apparently. Membership. So it's the membership for this. We'll say that we want people to be members when they purchase their membership card. We want that membership card to be valid for a certain duration here. And let's pick something like 1 day is fine actually. We call keys the actual membership cards, and so how many membership cards do we want to create? And that's also interesting because I didn't mention this, but like these memberships are actually NFT. We'll get into details a bit later about that. But I can, when I mint my contract, when I create the contract, sorry, I can decide of how many at most NFTs are going to be minted or assigned to members. So let's take something pretty small here. Let's do 10. I don't know if that's relevant for the application that somebody might be creating, but that's actually I'm currently in Paris because tomorrow is the Ethereum conference called ECC. A membership to a conference is a ticket to the conference. It's a one-off membership for maybe a couple of days, the duration of the conference. And you obviously want the number of membership that you sell because you want to limit the number of the code, the size of the event itself. So let's create 10, and then you can decide on a price. The price is expressed in either the native currency of the blockchain. So here we're on Rinkeby, so it's called ETH, like the mainnet. It is fake ETH in practice, so I could set that as price. But I could also set any ERC20 here. On the UI here, we just show one called we as default, but I'll show a bit later. There's a mechanism to actually use any ERC20 of your choice. So you can create kind of a membership using social monies, for example, which I think is an interesting use case. Let's create one using ETH for 0.01. I think it's a good default here. And I'm gonna let's submit here. So pretty similar to what you would expect from any blockchain service, there's your wallet is going to pop up, say, hey, do you want to deploy that that membership or actually send that contract transaction? It's called create lock. It's going to create a lock, and it's going to basically cost a little bit of gas to do so. I'm going to confirm here. And then immediately you see that even though the transaction hasn't been mined, we actually already know of the address. So we have an address here that is going to be the address at which the membership is going to deploy. Let's look at the transaction here, because I want to show you something quite interesting. So obviously, this is blockchain. Oh, it actually already happened. This is a blockchain base. So there's going to be a block mined that's going to include the transaction in here. You can see obviously in the logs that an event has been triggered. It's interesting because I thought it would show me they don't show me okay, well, forget about what I was going to say. I'll show you a bit later. Maybe that's, so let's go back to the dashboard here. You see here basically that each duration is 30 days. At this point, there is 0 out of the 10 membership that have been minted or created. The price is 0.01 ETH. We can change it at any point. So we could do that. The balance on the lock, which is basically the amount of money that the smart contract has received, is currently 0. If we leave the price at 0.1 and we sell the 10 membership, at some point there's going to be 0.1 ETH, which is pretty straightforward here. And so we have a couple that we'll look after in a couple of seconds. The one that I want to show was actually the one called Explorer here, which is opening the Block Explorer, and you can immediately see here the smart contract on the Block Explorer, and you see that we verified the contract, and people can you can basically interact with the contract from there. It is a good way to debug or identify things. So here, for example, we can say, hey, who's the beneficiary? What is the address that's going to get the funds when we withdraw from the lock? And obviously that's my address because I'm the one who deployed the contract. But we could change that beneficiary and say, hey, this is going to be another address receiving the funds. And I think it is, search for it. Yeah, approve a beneficiary. So basically we say, hey, another beneficiary is going to get the funds basically in that scenario. Some other interesting methods, obviously the expiration duration. So the duration in seconds of each membership, it is, what do you pick? We pick 30 days. So that's 30 days in seconds. We have a way to set, for example, a free trial, and I'll get to this. It's basically a duration for which if somebody becomes a member, they can cancel their membership at no cost. And so for this, we would change the trial length, the free trial length, and you would basically be able to read that here. There's a couple of things you can actually identify if somebody has a valid membership. So that function is called get has valid key. And basically we have to type an address. Obviously here, I'm going to type the address of the smart contract, which is the smart contract itself doesn't have a membership to itself. It could have in some crazy scenario, but in practice, you see that the Boolean return is false. Really what's interesting about this, it's a good tool to kind of debug, inspect how things are working with your lock, basically. And this is all true because we obviously verify the smart contract. There's quite a lot of things here. Maybe one more thing that I want to show you. You can look at the code of the smart contract. Obviously, this is all on GitHub anyway. But then maybe more importantly or more interestingly, there is the ABI, which is if you've already done any smart contract development, which is the description of the API that the smart contract offers that you can feed into a library, and then that library would generally kind of auto-generate the read version, and there's the write version where this time you can actually modify some things in the smart contract. Obviously, there is a bunch of things that are only possible if you are the what we call the lock manager or one of the lock managers of the contract. Any other address to be a lock manager as well. And in that scenario, these other addresses have the same rights that you have on the lock. So you have to be careful about who you grant that to, but that's useful in the context, for example, of DAOs, where you say, hey, there is a first person who deployed it, and then they transfer ownership in some way of the contract to a DAO. And you would do that by saying, hey, this now the lock manager is the DAO, and then they can remove themselves as lock manager. You can actually renounce the lock manager role. And after this, you're not able to manage this anymore. If I did this now, since there's no other lock manager, this contract would become kind of an orphan in some way, and nobody could ever do anything with it or change it, which might be actually a feature in some scenarios. That's roughly the interest of using something like Etherscan. Maybe one more thing. There is one important function, obviously, which is called the purchase function, which is here. It is the function that somebody will call when they want to purchase a membership. And technically, that's the function actually mints an NFT. We'll go back to this, but basically, There is maybe a payable amount in Ether if the price is, if the lock is actually priced in ETH, which is the case here. So we would have to put the amount that we want to pay, the value of the transaction that we're sending. Oops, pretty useful actually. Where are we here? A recipient. So that's interesting. When you purchase a membership, you can actually purchase it for yourself, which is the default scenario, but you can also purchase it for somebody else. And in that case, you would provide their address in that field. If you purchase for yourself, you put your address. Referrer is also an interesting field. It is the address of the person that's going to get governance token for unlock protocol. So one of the core design decisions of the protocol is that it's decentralized. And the way we do this is by making sure that whenever somebody uses the protocol, they earn, I don't want to call airline miles or loyalty points, but that's the same idea, right? They earn governance tokens that allow them to eventually vote on upgrades to the protocol. So that's a pretty important part. If you plan on using the protocol, we do incentivize, we ask that you put an address of yours here so you can become one of the stewards of the protocol in that way. The last field is also interesting and very much useful for developers. It's basically a data field, and it's really a kind of an open field. You can put anything in here. Obviously, though, if you put too much data, it's going to be more costly because that actually accounts for gas. That data is actually not stored. It is just used when your lock implements a hook. So I didn't tell you about this yet, but there's to make the locks programmable, we have implemented a hooks mechanism that allows the lock manager to say, hey, when a purchase happened, call that other function on that other smart contract. And that's the hook that I described. And so here, let's say the hook needs some special data, you would actually pass it through the data on the purchase mechanism. And then the hook itself would receive it as well. The hook would also receive a bunch more things, including the recipient, including the price, and several other kind of default arguments. But you could pass more using that data field. If you don't use a hook, you can just leave that to being the empty, the zero string, the zero value, which means that it wouldn't be used there. So let's go back to the dashboard now, because we actually do have a couple things here that are interesting. Let's actually do the first demo here. We have several integrations. I'm not going to demo any of these, but you could easily add WordPress, Discord, Cloudflare, which is a Cloudflare worker, which is a way to lock completely a site where basically at the edge, basically Cloudflare will verify that the visitor has a membership, and if they don't, we'll just hide the content completely, and if they do, we'll serve it. We have an integration with Webflow, which is kind of an online CMS, one with Discourse, which is a forum platform. And again, we're going to have a lot more in the next few weeks, and we'd love to actually add the thing that you built to that list. We also have a couple tutorials on how to build custom things inside of your application. So you can build an ad-free experience on the website, where basically using JavaScript, you show or hide the ads, whether based on whether somebody's a member. You can do tickets to a conference. I mentioned that earlier. We actually even have a pretty cool mechanism to verify that somebody owns an NFT, a membership, by having them sign their NFT and generating a QR code that matches this. We have a way to get donations on GitHub, which is pretty cool, where you can basically, on GitHub, there's a way to support your favorite open source developers, and you can add your lock to that. So that's your supporters are basically unlocking the donor status in some way. And then there's a way to build a kind of a newsletter application similar to what Substack would do here. And so that's a tutorial on how to do this. Obviously, maybe the most important is the last one. It's the documentation, and we'll get there in a few minutes. But that's a way to learn how to do all kinds of integration, and again at different levels. But let's actually look at the purchase address. That's the address that a creator, once they deploy their lock, they would use to kind of sell, if they didn't want to write any code, sell access. So I'm going to just basically open that in a new tab. And you'll see that it's going to show a little pop-up here and loads the lock information here and say, hey, you need to unlock that membership now. And so again, that is something that we provide. You don't have to use this at all. You could definitely re-implement your own version of this, which just feels like for convenience. And that's the case for a lot of the creators that we chat with. They don't have developers working with them. They don't have, or even if they do, they actually don't want to re-implement everything. They're fine using our little UI for this, and so that's what this provides here. So here I'm going to select that only membership here that's available. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to connect my crypto wallet, and you'll see here, we'll get back a bit later, but there's already a way to kind of a hint that we're giving here where we can enable credit card for locks, which is pretty cool. And if I already had an unlock account, which I would have created to purchase another membership, and easy to do that. But here I'm going to just log in my crypto wallet. I'm going to use my in-browser wallet, which is MetaMask here. And it's already connected because I connected earlier. You can see the address here, and I'm just going to click to get the membership in my wallet. MetaMask is going to pop up. Pretty standard flow here. I'm going to pay a little bit of gas to put this, and boom, I put the membership. Let's go look at that transaction again, like we did earlier. This time because I want to show you something interesting. So let's wait a couple seconds, hopefully not too long. But as I said earlier, this purchase function, which has been called here, and again, our content kind of wraps that in a pretty easy API call. This purchase function, hopefully, looks like it's been mined. Let's wait for the indexing to work. This purchase function is actually the one that mints an NFT. It means the token that represents the membership. And so again, let's refresh. Maybe it's going to self-refresh, but let's actually, you know what, let me show you here on the dashboard. I'll refresh on the dashboard as well, because this time you'll see that obviously now we have 1 out of 10 memberships sold, and obviously now the balance on the lock is 0.01 ETH. So I've paid that. So there's one member that actually has paid for this. We'll get back to these a bit later. Hopefully now Etherscan has done their magic. They have not, damn it. All right, well, we'll get back to this in a couple of minutes. One thing I can do now is actually withdraw the funds. So these 0.01 ETH, I can say, hey, give them back to me. So the lock itself is going to transfer them to me. The demo, we'll look at this later. And we can look at the members page. So we have a little page that allows the owner of the lock to see the list of their members here. And here in that example, there's just one member, it's me on that lock. I've got token number 1. And my address is this, and it's valid for about a month, which is what we had. And indeed, August 18, 2021 is 30 days from now. Cool. Now, let's actually go back to here. Yeah, awesome. So the transaction has been mined. You'll see. So we can actually see exactly here, purchase function was called. We can see that the value was passed. I think there's a way to do that. Yeah. And so in that case, I would have received UDT governance tokens. On the testnet, we actually don't mint governance tokens. So there's none that are given here, but that would be here. And obviously the data field is empty because we didn't pass any data by default. What you can see though is like, obviously my address was sent a transaction to the contract, and we've seen the details of the transaction, but then tokens were transferred in practice from the address 000, which is minting. Token ID number 1 has been minted and assigned to my address here. We can actually go click here. I think we'll see that there's just one member basically on that smart contract. Cool. So, and again, if you had a lock with multiple members, you would be able to see them all. For example, on here. Let's get back to the dashboard. I think I've shown you here what I wanted to show. The integration is this part, and so let's dive into now the next step, which I think is an interesting one, is enabling credit card. So what I said earlier is like, as a creator, the user needs to have a wallet, but in practice, when creators have wallets, and I think it's a good thing, few people in the world at this point have wallets themselves. And you might want, as a creator, to offer a way to people to unlock your content or your application using their credit card numbers. And when they do so, they don't have a crypto wallet, they don't need cryptocurrencies, and they can do that. So it's actually a pretty straightforward flow. You click on the credit card button, and we actually use Stripe Connect. So we will require the creators in that scenario to actually have a Stripe account. And let me actually switch, even though this is on the production site, let's switch to the staging site so I can test. I can show you with test numbers. So the staging site is pretty much the same as the production site, except this time we actually hook it up with test credit card numbers. Interesting, I'm connected with a different account now, which is not what I expected. Oh, that's why. Yes, connect. Okay, cool. So I'm connecting to the same account. So same lock that we just created a couple of seconds ago. Same information. Again, now we're just on the staging site, so I can show you the credit card flow completely. So I'm going to click on credit card here, and the flow has 2 steps. The first one is connect to Stripe. So we're going to do that. We have to send a little message. It's not a transaction. It's a way for Unlock Inc. to verify that you actually own the lock, and you're going to connect that to the credit card flow, and then we're going to be redirected to Stripe. in a second. And now I'm going to log in on Stripe with some credentials of mine. All right, just use these. Obviously, it's going to require me to log in with two-factor auth, and I'm going to have to go grab my phone. So in 1 second here. Oops. All right. I'm going to log in with Stripe, putting my verification code here. Stripe. All right. 442627. Cool. Stripe is going to confirm this hopefully in a second. Good. And I'm going to basically log in with one of my saved businesses, so I don't have to go through that process. But if you did, it will take a couple of seconds. You have to upload some ID and do a couple of things here. You can see that I've got a bunch of test accounts. Stripe is a bit slow. It's still rotating here, but at some point, I think it's going to let us in. Cool. All right. So now it's going to show the business details. Again, this is kind of fake data, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to click done. And when it's done, now it's going to send me back to unlock and say, hey, all right, cool. We've connected the lock to Stripe. So now I can actually accept credit card payments on that lock, which is pretty interesting. So you see that Stripe is connected. The next step is to allow key granting. So the credit card flow is an interesting one. Basically, what happens is like there is still an NFT that is being minted and granted. So for this, somebody has to send a transaction, and Unlock Inc. is going to do that. Basically, Unlock Inc. is going to charge the card and assign the funds directly to your Stripe account. So we don't see the funds, we execute the transaction, but we don't touch them. And then once we witness that transaction, we're able to actually mint the NFT and grant the NFT to the person who paid with their card. Remember that recipient address? That's when we pass the recipient's address. So we send the transaction, but we say it's not for us that we're purchasing that membership. We're purchasing that membership for that other user. So I'm going to just basically allow Unlock Inc. to grant keys to my lock here. And it's a blockchain transaction. It's going to take hopefully a couple seconds as well to go through. And then after this, basically our lock is now enabled for credit card payment, which I think is extremely powerful. And I'll show you the demo. Will work for any user that has, yep, normally I think it was done. Yep, you see that role was granted and we're good. So now let's actually go back to the demo page. And this time what I'm going to do is copy that URL. Cool. And I'm going to open an incognito window. And the reason I'm doing this is because in an incognito window, I don't have a MetaMask. I don't have a crypto wallet. So now Unlock is going to basically load this. And you see already there's a little bit of a difference where we show the dollar price first, because we assume that if there's no crypto wallet, the user doesn't really know what ETH is. We show that it's about $18.35. And I'm going to click here. And this time I could connect a crypto wallet if I had one through something like Wallet Connect, but more importantly, the first option is to actually pay with my credit card. I'm going to obviously say pay with credit card here, and I'm going to have to create an account. So I'm going to say I am, you know what, I'm Dietrich. I don't know, I'm just creating a fake account here. And the reason I wanted to use the staging site earlier is so that I can use the test card number. And so it's faster. So I'm using this fake number. Don't try it, it wouldn't work anywhere. But that's that works. And I'm going to create an account here with Unlock. So email and password. Again, think the mindset is like that user doesn't have a crypto wallet, doesn't know what crypto is, doesn't want to pay with crypto. Just fine paying with with their account. I'm going to put a little password here, and I'm going to save and go to payment. Here, what's happening actually in the back end, it takes a couple of seconds because we, in the browser, actually in the back, but it's actually in the browser, we create a private key on behalf of that user. Not so much because we want them to have a crypto wallet, but because we want them to have an identity on chain. So we really create a private key so that there's a public key to which we can attach the NFT here. Cool, and you can see now the confirmation screen. I'm going to say, hey, do you want to charge $21.12? That includes actually $2.77 of fees that are going to Stripe and to us. Unlocking provide that service with a little percentage, and that's why we charge a bit more. I'm going to click confirm here, and now hopefully the card is being charged, and then a transaction is being sent on chain to purchase a membership for that user. So let's give it a couple seconds. hopefully not too much. And I'm sure the demo gods here now are betting against me. Hopefully not. It is a bit long. It should be shorter than that. I did earlier on mainnet, it works. Maybe there's a little issue in the testnet. But in practice, you should assume that the credit card transaction is going to work. And then I suspect this didn't work here. Interesting error. So it might still be processing. Feels slow. Let's give it a couple more seconds, maybe. But anyway, you've seen the flow here, and what's interesting in that flow. See, purchase failed, so there's something that actually doesn't work. But let's try again, just in case. I suspect the purchaser doesn't have funds on Rikubi, maybe. I should have done that demo on mainnet because it worked earlier. Damn it. All right, well, you have to trust me. It works basically, or it should work on Rikubi, and then I'll check that out after the demo. But basically here, what's happening again, Unlock Inc. is charging the user's card since we have the number, and then making the transaction on chain for that user, purchases the NFT, and then assigns it to that user. And after that is done, basically, you would see, let's actually side, but going back here, you would see now that 2 memberships have been sold, and you would see the address of that second user. Maybe a couple of things that I want to show you. First, you can customize the aspect of the NFT. So I'm going to here upload a file and say, hey, this is going to be a different, what do I have on my desktop? I think I have this one. Yes, boom. I'm going to say this is now how the NFTs are going to look. Obviously, when I do this, I need to prove that I own the smart contracts. I'm signing a transaction. It doesn't send it. It doesn't actually go on chain, but sends a transaction. What's really interesting here is like I want to show you that it's actually an NFT, and I'm going to go to OpenC, which you've probably testnets the OpenC I've heard of, and there's a way on OpenC to easily view all of the NFTs. I'm going to try this. Nope, that didn't work. I should have made a better job on preparing that demo, but OpenC, I think it's called OpenC. Let's test it. Okay, let's try again. OpenC. Actually, you know what? My connection. Am I connected? No, I'm gonna connect. It's connected to the wrong account. That's why. Log out. MetaMask, and it keeps connecting to the wrong account. I know why. Connect this one here. All right, and I can create a collection here. No, that's not the way to do that. I think there's a way. That's one. That's the one that I just created. Yes. Cool. All right, that's the Brother 3000 membership. For some reason, it doesn't show the image, but let's refresh. Maybe it's going to show it after a couple of seconds. But that's the NFT that I purchased. You can actually see that it was minted 13 minutes ago, and that's an ERC721 like any other NFT that you can think of. And hopefully, it will show the image. It doesn't show the image for some reason. I don't know why. It's not being friendly with me. But it does create an NFT here, and you can actually transfer that NFT or use and sell it, or use any of the characteristics that you would do with normal NFTs. Cool. Let's go back to this. So I want to show you something. So here, that address, the purchase address is actually our checkout flow, and you can customize this. And so let's actually do that together. You can customize that by looking at the paywall config argument. And I don't know why Brave opened. Turn it Brave. I want to open my editor. Cool. So the way to do that is actually pretty straightforward, but we have a way to configure what we call the paywall application, which is really the checkout application here. And so you can see that the URL actually looks like a base, and then has a paywall configuration, and then inside of it, some information that can be customized. And I'll show you in the docs where this can be customized. We have basically a whole doc section on how to lock a page, and you can create a configuration here. And so that's an example of configuration. So you can see there's basically the network ID, which is if you have multiple locks, the shared network for these locks, or for each lock, you can have a custom NAS and a custom network. You can set an image on that checkout. You can set the refer, which is the address that's going to get the tokens here. And so, for example, if we wanted to, I don't know, if we wanted to say the call to action is different, so we'll take, you know what, let's actually do, and oh, see, I shouldn't mention this, but this is Perl encoded. This needs to be Perl friendly. I'm going to just open a little so decode URI, so you can see how that looks like. So this is how it I'm going to just that thing. So you nope. Paste. All right. I don't seem to be having a good time right now. Let's clean that mess and do it again. So you'll see what is going on. Oh, forgot one closing parenthesis. Cool. So you see it looks like this basically, which is a bit of JSON blob, the same that we have in the docs here. So I'm going to just show you here. So the lock address is the one that we have. Obviously, it's on network 4. It's going to be, we say it's persistent, so you can actually close that on the purchase. You can customize the image here to put anything you want. Why do I have it twice? I don't know. But here, what we can do, I was going to show you how to change the call to action. So we'll add call to actions. Is that call to actions? Call to action, okay. And then we're going to say default and say purchase membership. Now, please, I mean, you can do whatever you want. And that's closing this, closing this. Cool. All right, so we're going to now actually remove that extra line, and the magic here is that we're just going to paste that here. I think the browser is going to do a good job at so we'll do another incognito window like we did earlier. And yay, please purchase the membership now, please. Oh, you can see also, by the way, it actually by default uses the image of the NFT here. So that's really what Unlock is at a high level, actually at a pretty thorough level now. Again, there's multiple levels of integration. You can actually integrate this into an app so that this little pop-up in the middle would open in the context of your application rather than actually send user to another tab, which I think is pretty useful. You can easily detect whether a user is a member or not by basically using that checkout window. We actually do send events to the page, giving the user's address, giving the transaction hash if there's a transaction, and things like this, which allow you to really kind of customize this. What kind of application can you build with this? Obviously, content-related things. So, say you have a blog, you want to say some blog posts on the blog are not available for everyone. You can use Unlock for this. Another cool application is around music. You can say, hey, I'm a musician, maybe some of the content or some of the music is not available for everyone. You can have things like, a chat server where there is a private channel where only members can interact. And that's pretty easy to do with Unlock. You can do any kind of applications. Like if you think about, in-app purchases, you're unlocking features. And so you definitely be able to use Unlock for that. Say you have a game and you want to kind of have, Easter eggs or something. People can unlock them with Unlock. You can do things like also membership that would basically give, discounts on some stores, or membership that would, provide a status. So say on the page, there's kind of the list of the gold supporters, and these gold supporters is a membership of 5 people at most. And then they're visible with their names or with some icon on the page as the supporters in that scenario. So really, that's the kind of thing that you can do with Unlock. I'd love to maybe, open the floor to people for if you have any questions. I don't know how that works, Dietrich or team. I don't know. Yeah. So maybe I'll stop sharing for now. And again, open the floor for a Q&A. Zach,
yeah, if people have questions, Definitely
Cool.
people can ask in this chat here, and then I'm going to actually pop over and check the YouTube stream.
Is there any question?
Check, nothing in YouTube though. I just did hear us from 5 seconds ago, which is always
Oh, there's a little bit of like, yeah.
a bit of an inception moment.
But weird.
Right, and then we'll also share this session in the Browser 3000 Discord as well, so folks can chime in there.
I mean, in any case, so we have the docs website at docs.unlock-protocol.com. We have a pretty active community on Discord, so you're more than welcome to join the Discord of Unlock. We actually do have a channel dedicated to Browser 3000 there, so you can come and ask any question. As I said, we have GitHub as a good place to open issues if you have, things that you would love to see being improved. Yeah, that's a good summary.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Sharing more about Unlock. I like this idea of just using Unlock for all our ticketing systems from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, and video streams. And one thing, so we talk about browsers here, obviously. One thing that I'm convinced about is like browsers themselves will need in the future to be monetized. I mean, the reason Chrome exists is because there is a big company that makes a lot of money through ads that is able to pay for this. And so Mozilla is struggling, obviously, but is also making money from that same interface. I think there's a world in which web browsers have a free version, but also have some features like, maybe a VPN, maybe some ways to sync between machines, maybe some, search, or even an ad blocker that you say, hey, you know what, these features are paid features and I pay $5 a month to unlock some, special features in the browser.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, even in a world where the browsers are ways that we can directly connect with each other or directly connect with services, things like Unlock become kind of a default economic interaction that we have.
Yep.
There's a lot of barriers. Like we still haven't got standardized payment APIs inside web browsers, and there are some interesting reasons behind why, right? And because it's not a universally interoperable layer for us to interact with each other. Yeah. So I think that's kind of what the opportunity that Unlock brings, and this pattern that you have that can bring to browsers as well.
And to clarify, I mean, exactly what you said is exactly right. We've built Unlock on the Ethereum chain, and of course the Ethereum payment through the Ethereum wallet is the default way, but as you've seen, we can do credit card, and we're perfectly fine or happy to eventually support things like, web monetization, and say, hey, people can pay with their web monetization wallets, or pay with Bitcoin, or pay with, maybe even pay with attention. Like that's actually a thing that I believe is going to be true, is like you can unlock a membership by watching an ad or some of these things. And so basically the protocol itself is very versatile in terms of like how the user can obtain the membership. It doesn't really matter to us. We have a default, but then beyond that, once the membership is in place, that's how you recognize that somebody should be given access to the premium only version of the website.
Yeah, I think, we've seen Brave really move forward with ways of monetizing attention in a way that gives more power to the edges, right? And I think that's probably just the first foray that we're going to see in that space. So hopefully maybe people who are listening and watching this learning session, take these ideas and use them for your hackathon projects. We have, I think, over 350, closing in on 400 people registered for the hackathon right now.
Nice.
That means statistically, based on hackathons we've done before, we'll get around 100 to 150 project submissions. And I would love to see some people riff on some of these ideas, right? Like, I think a unlocked web monetization integration would be fascinating.
Amazing,
and an unlocked BAT integration would be
So
fascinating.
there's already a bunch of these. Like people have deployed. I didn't show you this, but you can actually deploy a membership in any currency, and people have deployed BAT membership, so you can pay 5 BAT to unlock that content, which I think is
How do I do it? Like, I'd love to see some materials too. Like, the hackathon bounty is open for learning materials as well. So if you're watching this and you want to build a guide on how to do these things, come ask in the channel. Julien can point you towards the right APIs.
Yes.
And you know, if you want to be part of the winning pool, any documentation that you create, or guides or tutorials that you build, videos you make about how to do these things that we're talking about,
absolutely,
all qualify.
Absolutely. And there's a ton also of things to do with, I mean, obviously with IPFS around hosting content or around P2P. Like, I do believe that there is a world in which some content is hosted on my machine, and that's kind of private content or stuff that I don't necessarily want to share unless people have paid for this. And there's pretty ways to integrate Unlock in that scenario. Like, I host some files that are available for everyone on some node, but only the people that have paid for that content can actually access the content on the node. Or even something that I keep hoping will happen. Right now, we all know about DAOs, which are these kind of, you know, new kinds of organization that don't have bank accounts specifically. And when they want to use, say, a pinning service, they can't, because the pinning service will require them to actually pay with a bank account, with a credit card. And so what they have to do is like say, hey, we'll trust user X to do these. I would love for somebody to build kind of a pinning service where, you know, the subscription, the membership fee is actually paid using Unlock. And in that scenario, now the DAO can become a customer, because the DAO doesn't need a credit card. The DAO can say, hey, we'll have 5 tokens, 5 DAI, or, you know, 5 ETH or whatever that is. We'll send that to the pinning service. And then the pinning service can actually pin the content on behalf of the DAO. And so these are the kind of things that we hope to see happen.
Yeah, I feel like we have a lot of the pieces. We have a lot of pieces. And not a lot of easy ways for people to put them together.
To glue, yes, for sure. Yeah. And that's why hackathons are great. Like, because this is the point where you can take all of the Legos and say, hey, you know what, let's create this kind of, maybe, you know, I'm always worried when people say, oh, but people end up building kind of Frankenstein things at hackathons. It's like, yeah, but that's also how you start. Like, you start something that is gross and kind of ugly, but eventually you kind of chip away things and you make it smooth, and you have something that actually is, you know, eventually a very viable business sometimes. Yeah, exactly. Or somebody unlocks a pattern. Like, I put the Legos together in this right way that is super effective, and then everybody else can replicate that pattern. But the first 99 tries aren't going to work, right? The first 999 tries aren't going to work. And you said unlocks the pattern, and that's exactly right. Like, we want people to unlock the web, unlock new patterns of monetization, new patterns of ways of doing business, and new patterns of ways to do communities. And that's exactly what Unlock is about. Right on. Well, thank you for joining us. Thanks for everybody listening, watching, and thanks for all the people in the future, in the time machine, who will watch this. Feel free to reach out on the Browser 3000 channel and IPFS Discord. If you ask any questions, Julian's there, I'm there, and so are a bunch of the other projects. We have more learning sessions coming up this week and next. Looking forward to seeing you there. All right, thanks. Thank you very much. Everybody. Bye, everyone.